Welcome back to our podcast called Small Business Chat, the show where we break down news articles involving trademark infringements. Also, what certain things going on in the world do for small businesses, and just of the like miscellaneous things that we talk about every single day. Joins me today, like always, is Matt. How's it going today?
It is going fantastic. Good to see you again.
Right, yeah, it's been a minute. We have just been waiting for a really good topic to discuss, a couple of things, because believe it or not, these things, our topic of today is what does the tariffs do from Donald Trump do for your business, or what it doesn't do for your business, et cetera, et cetera. We'll kind of dig into that today, give you some good information. It's a really good, healthy, and information podcast for you to listen to, since it does affect some businesses. So we're happy to dig into it now. But yeah, that's what our topic is today. Matt, do you want to start us off with maybe just talking briefly about what tariffs are in just a little quick refresher?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And if you've heard from the administration, however, and we want to take this from sort of our small business bent, as it were. But clearly tariffs have been the news a lot recently, and tariffs are not something that have really been, that big of a deal to the United States in the last, I don't even know, 30, 40, 50 years. But back before we had federal income tax, way back, turn of the century, the 1900s, that is, we were more of a tariff economy, as the president has noted. And so all a tariff is basically a countrywide tax on goods coming into the country, and such. And tariffs really do two things. Number one, they should create revenue for the country that is exacting the tariff. But of course, number two, it creates a barrier to entry, and against, other countries' goods. So more specifically, just some examples, just to give everyone, such. Have you ever wondered why there aren't many Fords, motor cars, running around Europe? Well, I don't know, Jacob. Have you ever wondered why there aren't many Fords? I mean, how many times have you been to Europe? Have you ever been to Europe?
Never been to Europe. Nope.
Oh, that's a
Always
horrible
wanted to
question.
go.
Yeah, I always want to go. Okay, so if you were to go to Europe, about the only you may, like, during a week-long trip to Europe, see like one Ford Mustang, like 165 Mustang, from some like really rich person who has it and they're driving it around. But for the most part, you scratch your head. You're like, okay, let's flip it on its head. How many Japanese cars or cars, for Japanese, companies do we see here in the United States? Like a
Decent
lot,
amount.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like tons, right? In German cars, same thing, right? Like, out of curiosity, what type of like car company, who made your car?
Ford.
Yeah, they did, because Ford's the best. But anyways, that's why I always say that.
It
Yeah,
is.
made in America. There you go. But you see this in large part because countries have enacted barriers to entry. And we heard recently, from the White House, like, we're starting to learn that like our US manufacturers don't have the ability to go and sell their goods in China or Europe because there are such stringent tariffs or other barriers to entry. And President Trump, and if you look back at all of his stuff and everything that he's ever said about any of this stuff, for going back before he was president, before he was candidate, back in the 80s when he was writing books and being a real estate tycoon, has always just felt it was very unfair. Like, we allow everyone to sell their stuff to our people, but we don't allow that they don't allow us to sell his stuff. Now, without saying that I just overtly agree with his stance on everything, I'll be honest with you. In my life, and I don't know about you, but I demand reciprocity. So if I'm willing to go, if I have a friend and I'm willing to go change their tire when they're broken down on the side of the road, I only want friends in my life that will likewise reciprocate. They're going to come and help me change my tire when I'm broken down on the side of the road. And from a very base fundamental just thought, without getting into the complexities of the economies and the economics of all this, it's sort of a general concept I think that most people can rally around, which is well, if you can sell your stuff here, shouldn't our businesses be able to sell their stuff there? That's really what it comes down to. Now, it's dramatically more complex than that when you really get down into the economics of it and such. And so, in essence, you have, specific tariffs where you can just come in and say, well, everything from China, we're going to put 100% tariff on. So any goods coming in from China, we're going to tariff the heck out of. So, in essence, to try to basically, it's in essence saying I'm starting a war with you, because they're not allowing our goods to be sold over there, versus specific tariffs, which are generally favored by economists, which is just like, well, we're just going to tariff this auto part or this, cars from China because they're tariffing cars from us. So, for instance, specific versus general, we're going to have a specific tariff on cars coming from Europe, BMWs, Mercedes, etc. Why? Because Germany puts a 100% tariff on our cars going there. That's why you don't see any Fords over there, or Chevys and such. So we're going to respond in kind. So a general tariff would be basically everything from Germany we're going to tariff versus, well, let's support our U.S. manufacturers. Hey, BMW, we're going to make them twice as expensive over here, so you can't sell them over here anymore unless. So that's what sort of the general concept is. Now, the secondary part of this is, and this is where the administration has asked Congress to start acting on this, is tariffs, if they stay in place, will lead to more expensive goods. There's no question about that. I don't think that President Trump wants that to be the case. I don't actually think he really wants tariffs. I think what he wants is he wants to knock down the barriers to entry to other governments for us. And so that Ford, et cetera, can go ship their cars to China, can go ship their cars to Germany, because effectively we have 320 million people, give or take, in this country. They got a billion plus over in China. They got a billion plus over in India. Why are they allowed to bring their stuff here? And we say, hey, our stuff, people will buy it, but then we're not allowed to go over there. So everyone who's beating President Trump over these Trump tariffs is, I don't think he really wants tariffs. What he wants is a truly global economy where there are no barriers to entry anywhere, and just said, hey, may the best person win. And for whatever reason, our leaders prior to this have accepted all these complicated tariffs and such. Maybe he's implied kickbacks or whatnot. But that's really, generally speaking, how tariffs work. Tariffs really, they're revenue producing for the government that's exacting them. But reality is it's really they're put up for barriers to entry so that my company doesn't have to compete against these foreign companies coming in. And again, isn't turnabout fair play, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that it is. I think that I don't think anything that he's doing is necessarily wrong. I know it does affect a lot of different businesses, but I think that it's for a healthier outcome, in my opinion.
Yeah, in the long run, right? And I think you have to look at it, the tariffs, and this is the thing. He said this multiple times, not to get too much into just President Trump and President Trump worshiping and all that sort of stuff, but I hold a, degree. Yeah, exactly. I know you don't mind that, but but still, but but I mean, his heart's in the right place, and his one of the things is you love him or don't love him. The one thing that you always have to say about President Trump is he's getting things done. And and I got to give the president props in that regard. Is that, and yes, there are a lot of challenges and stuff, and not again, it's sliding into politics. I'm sorry, but the answer is isn't it sort of wonderful, just for a brief moment, whether you agree or disagree with the policies, to have someone who's actually gone to Washington and said, I work for the people and I'm going to get stuff done for the people. Now, is he and his friends probably making some money? I'm sure. There's no doubt about that. But it's just so refreshing. No one's complaining anymore that Washington doesn't get anything done. They're like, holy crap, it's getting done too fast. But so the short-term pain of the tariff is, and a lot of our small business customers are already experiencing this, is that if you source things through China, you're going to have some short-run pain, some short-term pain. And but I think that, and so it's almost like a COVID type thing. You may just have to go on, for a time and maybe even get lending or whatever to get you through these gaps because, first of all, China and such were shipping tons of goods to the country before the tariffs went into effect. So hopefully there's a budget or surplus of things, that were coming in from China. Like, so for instance, if I'm a t-shirt manufacturer and I basically do my silk screening here in California, but I was sourcing all of my t-shirts from China, my cost just went up dramatically for those t-shirts. Now I'm going to have to pass that on to my end run consumers in the short run because those tariffs are in place. So, or I'm going to have to reduce my profit margin. This will put many small businesses, unfortunately, into the red for a period of time. I don't think the administration is not savvy to this, but that is a short-term effect. The long-term or the effect it would be is the tariffs are eventually going to subside because he's using them as a bargaining chip to basically open up those barriers to China. So while the short term is going to be your finances are going to be negatively impacted if you have a small business that relies on the importation of goods and services, especially from tariffed countries. The long term is going to be is get ready to start having an export business of your goods and services to China, to India, and all that sort of stuff, because they're either going to take down their barriers to entry or no one's going to be able to afford anyone's goods coming in and outside of the country for a long time. By the way, your market also will get better in the United States because, yes, you're going to have to source it here in the United States, but if people don't want to play ball, they're not going to be able to basically be competitive to you. Let me explain that in a better way. I'm sort of skipping through this a little bit, but so for instance, maybe my t-shirts previously were competing against, the company from China or India or whatever that are bringing their t-shirts in this country. They're not going to be able to do that anymore because it's going to be too expensive for them. So your market factors, people aren't paying attention to this, are actually going to go up. Your demand for your product in this country is going to go up, especially if you're in a situation where your products were previously competing with other people's products that are coming in from outside the country. Let's get back to the Ford Motor Companies. My car for Ford is going to largely, especially if he suspends the tariffs on inbound parts, Fords are going to become dramatically cheaper compared to BMWs and Range Rovers and all that sort of stuff. So Ford's going to have a bonanza for the next couple of years. If, again, these companies don't come to, the bargaining table. And just from a larger context, who made these deals? And such. And like why is it that our major manufacturers here aren't able to, export? And they always talked about this when I was a kid growing up. They always talk about, well, there's different fuel, things in Europe and gas costs more and stuff. But man, people will pay for gas. Europeans love our stuff, man. I remember like the old jokes like Czechoslovakia and stuff. Dude, they do anything American. Man, you imagine bringing American muscle cars over. What was that car that a guy used to sit in the office that you're sitting in right now used to have? You know what I'm talking
Orange
about? People,
Challenger.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
Do you know like Europeans would eat up those Dodge Challengers or whatever it is? They would love those cars, those big throaty brum, 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 brum type thing. And they can't get there because of these tariffs. So, how to react to the tariffs? The administration's absolutely correct. This is a short term, whatnot. But I think for far too long, here's just a rank political statement here. For far too long, we spent so much money on the military. We're the big dog on the block. Why aren't we swinging it around like we are? Why are we making all these deals that our American companies can't get into European markets and our American companies can't get into China? China's the most complicated one because we need them as much as they need us. Yeah, they'll tell you not, but I mean, we get all of our cheap stuff. If we like cheap TVs and all that sort of stuff, it's because China. China makes it for everyone. They have so much, manpower over there. But as of this morning, President Xi has said, "Hey, President Trump, let's chat." And so, in other words, and I love how everyone's criticizing his means, but what he can't tell you, and anyone who's negotiated a deal, I've been fortunate enough to negotiate $100 million deals in the past. No, I apologize. The largest deal I ever negotiated was no, it's about close to 100 million. But you can't tell them this is my negotiation tactic. And the press keeps trying to say, wow, what are you doing? Whatever. Well, I can't tell you that tariffs are just my negotiation tactic to get your barriers of entry down, but that's what he's using it for. And people have to understand he's doing this for the good of American manufacturing, which is who put him into office.
Right.
And so he's, talk about, I mean, again, once again, just coming back full circle. He is, as much as people want to criticize this, that, and the other thing, he is absolutely doing things that support the people that have voted him into office. And when was the last time we had a president in the last 40 years that have gone back and said, here's my 73 promises that I made on the campaign trail. I've gotten 50. I'm working actively on 50 of them. And so for any other party out there that's trying to figure out, what the American people want, the American people want people to live up to their promises. We're sick and tired of them not. I think your generation is what's heading this up. So I know this just got rank political, but all right, enough about my babble about tariffs. You said you got questions on this sort of stuff. So I think in the
It's
long
getting
run,
political. It's already political.
yeah, it is what it is, right? So
Yeah,
we'll never get this boosted because I said too many things about politics. Such is life.
it's okay. It's okay. I think
Hey, come
um,
on. We know Zuckerberg and Billionaires Row was there supporting Donald Trump, at his inauguration. I saw you
right,
all. Come
right.
on,
We shouldn't
Zuck.
even
You
have
gotta
to
let
pay
this
for
get
the
boosted.
boost. They
Come
should
on,
just
Zuck.
boost it. Anyways, so also I did have a couple questions for you, Matt. What do you think? Because especially, obviously us being in the trademark field, obviously we file many out of country, out of United States trademarks for international protection in different countries. I wonder how that these people who obviously are have businesses that need goods, transported to different countries, how those people with those trademarks are affected. So do you know, or what do you think what the bottom line is for those small businesses that rely on those products that are being tariffed?
Say it again one more time. I was trying to make sure I got the right spin on this.
Yeah, my question is because especially since we deal with a lot of owners that have trademarks that are
Oh,
protected or need protection internationally in different countries.
right.
How do you think even our own customers will be affected? Or what do you think the bottom line is for those small businesses that rely on those products to be shipped to those
Yeah.
different countries?
Yeah, so I mean, so if you're going into different countries, and again for the short run, I think it's going to be painful. There's no doubt about it, and I'm not making light of it because businesses go up and businesses go down. I think in the short run, you're going to have to tighten your budgets, and I think that you're going to have to ride the tariffs out. I think that this is all going to ride out. Probably, I don't think it's going to be as long as people think. I think this all the tariff battles are going to be done in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Do you think
I
there's
just
going to be
don't think
massive
it'll go very
layoffs
long.
from companies too in spite of
No,
this?
I don't think that's going to be an issue. I actually think sorry, I watch the press briefings every day. And so literally every country quietly has come to the United States. I mean, I've never seen anything like this where presidents of the foreign governments are coming in and flying in and I mean this respectfully, not insultingly, kiss the ring of Donald J. Trump. I mean, you just don't see when a new leader is elected. I've never seen anything like this. They all are literally flying here to meet with them. Now they're all trying to clamber in and say, how do we deal with these tariff issues? There are a couple, countries that are being a little bit like China's big enough that we're the two big dogs on the block, China and the United States. I mean, everyone talks about Russia and Germany and all this. No, man, those two big dogs on the block. It's China and the United States. And so China figured out a long time they were trying to become they don't want to fight us in a war. They want an economic battle. And we now have someone in the White House that's saying, okay, enough of this economic battle crap. Let's both be the big dogs on the block, but we're not going to deal with your crap anymore. But the fascinating thing I think about, for the small business is just that small businesses could potentially be the casualty here. You just got to understand that there is a light and it's a very bright light at the end of the tunnel. What I would suggest is getting your ducks in a row to start exporting to countries that maybe you had not thought about exporting to before, if that's your product model. Because if there were any barriers to entry to your stuff or tariffs or otherwise, be prepared that they're going to fall. So think about it, you got 320 million here. I think you got 500 million in Europe, people across Europe. You got a billion in China, billion two, I think, a billion in India. That's not to say that that was what was keeping your model from expanding. But again, short term, a little bit of pain, especially in getting goods that that help build your stuff or whatever. Long term, I think it's going to be a lot of this is fantastic. I think it's going to open up a lot of markets. And again, Clinton talked about a global economy and NAFTA and all that sort of stuff. In essence, what NAFTA was the North American Free Trade Agreement, right? And so it's supposed to say no tariffs between Canada and all that sort of stuff. Well, as we now are aware, Canada quietly started putting in tariffs against our goods and all that sort of stuff. Mexico is sort of just caught up in all the crap here because I mean Mexico, I actually think the world of Mexico. But when you start putting on tariffs on lumber and all that sort of stuff coming in Canada, you're like, wait, why? Why? We had NAFTA. What happened with that? And such. So it's just supposed to be free trade zones. And so, but slowly we've allowed our, people that rely on us to just put in these barriers to entry, which they're coming down, but it's going to be painful for a little while. Just like you saw in the stock market, it was painful initially, but now it's starting to normalize. And I'm going to tell you, the day that we strike a deal with China and it's coming, I hope you've invested in the stock market. It's going to go up It's going to go up 5,000 points that day. It's going to be insane. But anyways, I'm sorry. I hope I answered toward that rambling question as our time draws near.
Yeah, no,
Toward,
I think that's a good way to end it. I think we talked about a lot of good stuff today. I think whoever's listening is going to gather a lot of good info and just rest easy a little bit knowing that I mean like kind of like how you just said, Matt, it's going to be a little painful in the beginning, but as we get used to it, I think it's ultimately the best thing for the end run or the final outcome. So so just hang in there as we wrap up today's episode. I know obviously this topic isn't always the most exciting topic, but I think it's the best topic for small businesses owners or just businesses in general to know these types of things. So I know these can kind of sneak up on you, but that's why we created this podcast today to kind of just give those small business owners a little bit more of a ease or to ease their minds a little bit, as they go throughout their daily lives. So hopefully, if you listen to this, hopefully gain something from it. I hope if you did, please like this episode on our YouTube page. It's where we always post all of our podcasts. But other than that, Matt, do you have anything to say to the folks?
Thanks. It's good to be back.
Yep, good to be back. Until next time, keep hustling, keep adapting, and stay smart. All right. Bye bye.